Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Kaycee Palumbo, Zone Leader at Cytiva. For the next 45 minutes or so, we will all be talking about plastic. More specifically, we're going to be talking about how companies like Cytiva can work with partner organizations that are either social enterprises or for profit companies to reduce the contribution of their operations on the plastic pollution crisis that is really impacting our planet. Now, we all know this is a overwhelming challenge, but we are today joined by representatives of three different organizations who are each really leading the charge with innovative market-based solutions that global organizations can implement at scale. So before we get started, I'd like to again thank everyone for joining today. Please be sure to use the chat function throughout our discussion. Please say hello, tell us where you're from, and ask questions of each of our panel members all throughout the discussion. Now, joining us virtually here, as you can see, we have from Vancouver, British Columbia, Shaun Frankson, co-founder and CTO of Plastic Bank. We're also joined by Tom Aicardi, Executive Vice President at Triumvirate Environmental, based in Somerville, Massachusetts. And finally, Tony Rossi, Executive Vice President of TerraCycle. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Sure. So to kick things off, let's learn a bit more about our panelists and the organizations that they all represent. So Shaun, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell us a bit about Plastic Bank, its mission, and how do you help achieve it?
Sure. So at Plastic Bank, we're on a mission to stop ocean plastic by improving poverty at the same time. And we really do this by setting up ethically sourced, fully traceable recycling ecosystems in some of the most vulnerable places in the world that happens to be the source where a lot of the ocean plastic's coming from. And we really look at a way, instead of having this last resort of recycling being a waste picking or a scavenging thing, of how we can bring pride and dignity and actually make recycling the starting point to a better life, and actually the focal point for these vulnerable communities, for companies that don't want to just use any recycled plastic, but want to use a plastic that they know is helping to stop ocean plastic, improve lives, and really regenerate the economies that they come from. And this is what we do with complete traceability, to have an ethically sourced social plastic that companies can be proud to use to be doing their part in really helping to have this global problem under wraps.
Ethically sourced plastic. That's such an interesting concept. I'm really interested in your mission statement and how you say it's building a regenerative, inclusive, and circular plastic economy. Could you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, a large part of what we do is we actually bring in a technology through using a blockchain application, the whole platform we call Alchemy, where we really don't go in and compete with everything that's existing, but we certify Plastic Bank locations. They use our application to register all the members, verify their ages, provide a blockchain ID, a blockchain wallet, and really a proof that the right person gets the right amount at each time. And again, we use this application to track the purchase from a collection member, the sale to one of our processing partners, all the way to the product on the shelf, to again know that this social plastic really did exactly what it promises.
Thanks for sharing that, Shaun. Tom, let's go to you. Can you tell us a bit more about your work with Triumvirate Environmental?
Sure. Triumvirate's a full-service environmental firm located here in Somerville, Massachusetts. We have 25 locations throughout the United States and Canada. John Francis McQuillan started the company a little over 33 years ago and has built an amazing organization. And one of the unique things about Triumvirate is how we partner with our clients to make sure we're providing the best service possible. And one of those is we service 4 vertical markets, our largest being the life science arena, along with higher education, healthcare, and industrial market. And with the life science arena, they really came to us and said to us, we need to find a more sustainable purpose for a lot of our plastics and medical waste. And you'll learn later on today how John and his team developed a very unique facility in Jeannette, Pennsylvania, how we can recycle a lot of different types of plastics, especially in the life science or higher education and healthcare industries.
It's nice to hear how you're really pivoting to support the market demands. Can you tell us a little bit more about your facility expansions?
Sure. So Jeannette, Pennsylvania is located about 25 miles west of Pittsburgh. And we are constantly expanding what we call Plant 2. We have 2 plants there. Plant 1 is a medical waste processing plant, and Plant 2 is the plastic recycling lumber facility. So we're constantly putting in new process lines in Plant 2 to make more and more lumber for our end users. And just 3 years ago, we had 7 processing lines. Today, we have 14, and we're even expanding more. But we're also looking at, because of the demand from our clients saying, hey, when can you do something on the West Coast, or when can you do something in Europe? And we're exploring those options right now. In fact, in Arizona, we purchased a large piece of property, and we're going through the permitting process right now to do all different types of services out in Arizona. But one of them will be related to the plastic recycling operation. So we're very excited about that, and we should have that place up and running sometime mid next year if all the planning goes correctly. And then secondly on that, right before the pandemic hit, we were in heavy talks with Ireland, with the local and federal government over there about doing a duplicate plant in Ireland. Obviously, with the pandemic, that delayed us quite some time, but those conversations are now fast and furious as we speak. And we're hoping to have a big update for our clients in Europe that have similar operations here in the States that we service, that now we can service over in Europe. So we're pretty excited about that as well.
That is exciting to hear about, and the expansions will certainly help, right, the impacts globally, as well as being a neighbor here in Arizona. Looking forward to it. A quick thank you to the people who have shouted out. We've seen people from New Jersey, from Ireland, from Fujifilm, and highly appreciate, and remember, use the chat feature should you like to ask any questions, and thank you for your participation. Now, Tony, you have been with TerraCycle since 2012. Could you tell us about TerraCycle and how's the organization evolved since you've been there?
Of course. Thank you for having me, first off. TerraCycle has been a mission-driven company from day one. So as a business, we're almost 20 years old now. Obviously, I joined a little bit later on in our history, but from day one through to today, TerraCycle has always been mission-driven, and our mission is very simple. It is, how do we eliminate the idea of waste? We actually started as a fertilizer company, and our primary target was actually food waste and vermicomposting. But we've evolved, and everything that we do as a business exists to help us achieve our mission of eliminating waste. And today, we're primarily split into 3 major pillars. The first, the oldest, and the largest is our recycling business. But TerraCycle as a recycler is unique. We are different in one very, very important way. What we collect and what we recycle in the 22 countries that we operate around the world are products and packages that are not typically municipally recycled, right? So we're not a recycler of aluminum cans or uncoated corrugate paper, HDPE bottles, because most consumers, most offices have an output for those materials today. So we focus on things like syringe filters, coffee capsules, personal protective equipment, and the list goes on and on and on, even to really complicated products like used diapers, cigarette butts, chewing gum. And the way that TerraCycle approaches recycling these types of products and packages is through a financial equation, right? What makes the things that TerraCycle recycles non-recyclable isn't the technical ability to recycle those products, but it's the financial equation around recycling those products. And what I mean is, if it costs TerraCycle, let's say $1.50 a pound, to work with an office, a manufacturing facility, even somebody collecting waste at home, to get that material back to one of our MRFs, a material recovery facility, to sort it out, to aggregate it, and then to ultimately process that material into a new format, which is, if we're talking about plastics, usually it's a plastic pellet. That plastic pellet is maybe worth $1 a pound. That's why we partner with stakeholders, whether it be the companies who manufacture those products, whether it be the offices or the facilities generating that waste, to effectively subsidize the cost of recycling those products. And that's what really enables us to create supply chains for that recycled material. And that leads really nicely into our second pillar of our business, which is, what do we do with that material? Working with manufacturers to integrate recycled plastics into their products, into their packaging. So one of our most famous examples of that is probably the ocean plastic supply chain that we created around the world. Some examples include the Head and Shoulders ocean plastic bottle, but we've also worked with products like Pilot. We launched a range of pens made from ocean plastic. And then ultimately, our company is always looking to innovate and to, again, tackle our mission of eliminating waste. And our most ambitious attempt to do that today is Loop, which is a platform for reusability, where we're working with stakeholders to try to shepherd an ecosystem that enables brands, retailers, consumers, but also moving into the B2B space as well, to live their life in reusability. And our key role as Loop in that process is not a recycler where we break down material, but actually as a cleaner. How do we bring back this material, clean, sanitize it, so it can go back into the supply chain?
That's the true circular economy that we're all trying to drive for. So great to hear that that's where you're moving for. And who knew about recycling chewing gum? We learn new things all the time here. Taking a step back, Shaun, Tony, both of you describe your organizations as social enterprises rather than charities or nonprofits. Could you help us understand that term, and what does that mean for Plastic Bank and TerraCycle, respectively? Let's start with you, Tony.
So for us at TerraCycle, when we say we are a social enterprise, we are a for-profit business. We're independently owned, but what drives us is not profit, right? And we're not looking to maximize margin on our services. We're really looking to cover our costs, right? So for us, that comes in two forms. We need to cover our headcount and our staff to be able to work with our partners to execute these programs. And then as I go back to what I just spoke about, that subsidy of the recycling equation, right? That's where we need our partners to step in. And again, that's not a profit center for us, where we're looking to drive 25, 30, 40% margins. We're really looking to, again, subsidize our costs so we don't lose money, right? And that enables us to create these supply chains. So I think when we say social business, that's really what I mean, is that we're looking to work with partners to enable us to do the work that we need to do to clean up this planet, not that profit and margin is our driving force.
Thanks for sharing. And Shaun, what are your thoughts from your perspective?
Yeah, and we're a proud social business, which you can kind of put as a mission first, where again, it's how do we stop ocean plastic, improve lives. But for us, it's really important that the social enterprise part, the for-profit equation allows us to actually just control our own growth, reinvest in our impacts, and really be self-sustaining. So from the get-go, we really looked at, again, how can we create a mission that can impact 1 billion people's lives, but really make sure through a revenue generation platform, we can continuously grow, reinvest earnings into our growth and impact, and sustain everything we're doing. And we really wanted to make sure that we don't have anything that's temporary, anything that's a campaign and goes away, especially in the vulnerable communities that we operate in. It's how might we design something that's always there, self-sustaining, and allows us to build something, set it up, let it run, move on to the next, while the entire thing grows and complements each other. And I'm a big believer that one day I really hope we even stop using the term social enterprise, because mission-driven business just becomes the new norm in business and just simply a business best practice.
Yes, that would be the way we would like to certainly evolve in that regard. Thank you, Shaun, and both. So let's take a quick break now to learn more about Plastic Bank's social plastic. Welcome back to our live discussion on partnering for plastic waste solutions. We're here with representatives from Plastic Bank, Triumvirate Environmental, and TerraCycle, who all work with corporate clients like Cytiva to help them achieve their sustainability goals. So looking forward, what would you each say are the biggest priorities for your respective organizations? Tom, let's start with you first.
Sure. Some of our biggest priorities, first and foremost, is really our people, right? We believe we have the best and brightest people in our industry, and we really want to keep continuing to invest in them through training, through coaching, through mentoring, so they can provide the best possible services to our clients. We think about services in the wow factor, right? Always exceeding expectations, and that's why our people are the best. Secondly, is that commitment around sustainability. Helping our clients hit their corporate goals, not only annually, but say there's a 5-year goal, right? How do we partner with them to make sure that they achieve those goals? Thirdly is creativity, thinking outside the box around sustainability, right? We have a very unique situation in Jeanette, Pennsylvania, because we believe it's the only one in the world that can do what it can do, but we don't want to stop there. We want to keep pushing the envelope, and that starts with our leader, John McCullen, and we want to continue that. And the last thing is expansion. Priority for us, as I talked about earlier, is out in the West Coast to help our California and clients on the West Coast as well into Europe, because we get asked that 5 times a day. It's a nice ask, but it's also not too many people want a medical waste processing facility in their backyard, so it's always difficult to achieve. But we're moving on it and moving quickly.
That global solution will make a difference when it's ready. Shaun, what are your bigger priorities?
Yeah, for us, as a company, we obsess with the term exponential, where we recognize from the start that if we really want to turn off the tap, there we are. Yeah, so from us, we realize that exponential is really the key to how we can turn off the tap and stop ocean plastic, where if we're just in a couple countries, a couple areas, it's a really nice to do thing, but it's not a solution. So we really look even beyond our current, partner communities where we operate of, how might we provide a hero's journey for anyone to really play a part in stopping ocean plastic, to have something authentically to do. Now we're expanding beyond just the collection communities to have school programs, faith programs, workplace programs. And we recognize even with our partners, the average business, the average employee, the average person is really looking for, how might I bring more purpose to what I do every day? How might I give more to the world than I take? And we continuously look at how might we be that conduit for our collectors, our communities, our partners, and that we can really provide this authentic way to create an impact and do it in a way that just scales just to every degree we need, and really just be exponential by design with everything we do.
resonates for the up and coming generations and millennials. All want to work for organizations that have that purpose-driven approach. So thank you. And Tony, what are your priorities? Oh, Tony, we may have a mute situation. It looks like, why don't we move on? Looks like we have a question. Here we are, representing the sustainability interests of an organization that generates thousands of pounds of single-use plastics each year, arguably tens of thousands of pounds. I need options, 0 landfill options for up to bio-level safety 2, and biopharma process waste. Tom, may I turn it over to you? Believe that you may be able to answer this question as you have dealt with some biohazard waste.
Yeah, and the single-use technology, as we all know in the industry, is growing every single year at 25+% based on the experts in the industry. One thing unique about our plan is we can take those SUT bags into the plant, either through plant 1, the medical waste processing side, or to plant 2 if it's non-biological. So, and we process those every single day, large amounts of those SUT bags. We process every day in the plant through plant 1 and plant 2.
And
So
Aaron, yeah, and Aaron, I think what we'll do is we'll get your information and follow up post. And really, for anybody listening today, that's what this is about. It's about building these connections. So please do reach out to us, post this broadcast, and we'll be sure to get you connected to follow up on any of these initiatives so you can get synced with these good organizations. And Tony, glad you're back. Back to you on your priorities.
Yeah, I would. I'll be succinct as I dropped off. I apologize, everyone. I think our priorities, if I distill it down, first is growing the existing programs that we have. Something that is really difficult to do is to start these recycling programs. It is hard. Working here at TerraCycle in business development for 10 years now, sometimes I'll get on the phone with stakeholders and they say they want to collect 25, 30, 50% of what they produce. But recycling isn't a faucet. You just turn it on and then it opens up. We're talking about behavior change. We're talking about creating a culture, and we have to grow these programs over time. So when I look to some of our partners who've been with TerraCycle for about 10 years now, some of them are collecting over 30% of what they produce. And that's really powerful. We're getting there quicker than the actual adoption of municipal recycling, which took PET bottles over 25 years to get to 25% of what they produce recovered. So I think for us, that's always our first priority, is how do we grow what we have? And then the second is, how do we expand? We started collecting and recycling flexible films. That's the only thing that we did. And now today, we're literally collecting and recycling thousands of different types of waste, which is really exciting. And more recently, we've seen we've seen a boom into the life science space, right? I think when recycling and making things recyclable really became a priority for people, for companies in the last 5 years, it focused mainly on the CPG space and FMCG in particular. But now we're seeing a lot of our partners in life science wanting to provide solutions for the really complex products and packages they make. So for us, we're always looking to expand. Where is there garbage? Where is there no solution? And how do we bring a solution to the table? So scalability is obviously number one. I would say coupled with that is education. I'm actually coming to you from Barcelona, Spain, and spent a day with kind of EU commissioners and having people debate what is not recyclable. Why is there no solution for this material, but there is for that material? And these are people who live and breathe recycling and packaging and polymers. What about the lay consumer? A lot of times they don't know what to do. I'm a bit of a geek on this, and I love to sit at a cafeteria and watch the recycling bin and the waste bin and just see what people put where. And a lot of times they're not doing the right thing. And they're there, they're sitting, they're looking, they're thinking. It's not because they don't want to do the right thing, but sometimes they just don't know. So a big part of our platform, of our programs, is bringing education to recycle right, to recycle better, because that's really important, because the more we recycle right, the easier it becomes for recyclers. At the end of the line, they don't have to spend a lot of time and money and effort sorting out the wrong materials, and that's going to lead to higher recovery rates.
Thanks, Tony. You bring up that concept of personal accountability, right? Which is up to each and all of us as we work on our corporate goals as well. What would good look like in 5 years? Actually, let's pause for a moment. Looks like we've got a good question from the team. So, TerraCycle, if you are not for profit and you are not looking to maximize your margins, how will you expand your operations and grow to have a larger impact?
Mhm.
Is it entirely dependent on the subsidies you receive or donations from benefactors? So, TerraCycle, over to you. And thanks, Craig.
Yeah. So, Craig, just I'm sorry if I misspoke. We are a for-profit business, right? But again, maximizing margin isn't our goal. It's being able to cover those costs that is our goal. And for us, we spend a lot of time working with stakeholders. And like I said, a stakeholder can be a brand, it could be a manufacturer, could be an office, to subsidize those costs. And that's what helps us grow. And the tonnage that we move weekly today at TerraCycle versus a year ago versus 5 years ago is exponentially larger. Even our headcount as a company has doubled during COVID. So we're faced with a very good problem right now, as we can't fit our staff in our existing offices because we're growing at such a rapid rate. And it is acquisition of new partners and the growth of our existing partnerships. That's what enables us to grow. From a more boring side, as a privately held company, we do run private equity, and we have sold off shares of our business in various regions around the world. One of the biggest ones that we did was in Europe, where we sold a significant portion of our business to Suez, a waste management company, which was a really wonderful strategic partnership, but also that influx of capital enables us to grow both our headcount, our facilities, etc. So I would say our growth comes from new partnerships, new stakeholders, enabling us to expand and collect more waste. And then from a corporate side, we do run private equity, and that influx of cash enables us to grow as well.
Thanks for clarifying that, Tony. Shaun, over to you. What would good look like from your perspective in 5 years' time?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'm a bit of an optimist, as I've been looking into this for a while, and that, I almost see this trend, especially when you just look at responsible business, responsible consumerism. There was a time that was considered a hippie thing. Then it was called a millennial thing. And I think we're really getting to the point where we're getting close to this just being a human thing, where, the knowledge of every vote you have is every way you spend. Every dollar is a vote for how a product was made, for the company who made it. And I think we're seeing this trend where people are now becoming aware that they have this vote. And, one of the beautiful blessings I've seen with so many of our amazing partners, a lot of what we do isn't remotely, marketing campaigns of, green initiatives. Quite often, a lot of our partners come to us knowing that, they need to do more purposeful things. They need to make business and purpose go together. And, it's really their employees and their staff that are looking for ways to be super proud of what they do for a living. And we're starting to live in this world, I find, where doing things the right way and really not being absolutely perfect or nothing, but incrementally bringing good, bringing purpose into a business best practice is just becoming a way to attract and retain, good employees, good staff. And I'm really seeing this trend where, again, I think purpose-based business might literally just be a requirement to stay in business. And this is what I'm hoping that's good becomes very soon.
Really like that you have this idea of Kaizen, of getting iteratively better, that it's not perfect or nothing, right? We can all get a little bit better. So thank you for that, Shaun. And how about yourself, Tom? What do you think good will look like for you in 5 years?
Well, I think the most important thing is organizations like Cytiva that, more and more organizations get fully committed to the whole recycling aspect of different types of plastics within their organization. And what does that mean? Well, that means being committed in regards to resources, meaning the funding, the space. One thing that I'm sure the other two panelists know with a lot of our clients, space is a major issue to store plastic so we can ship it to the recycling facility. And so those type of commitments to me is mission critical. It's got to start at the top. It's got to start at the C-suite, and they have to figure out a way, if they're going to build a new plant or in the process of building a new plant, have some space for recycling, right? So it doesn't become a hurdle or an obstacle for that site to recycle material. And that happens day in and day out on our end with most of our clients. And I think the next thing would be really each recycler, and you heard both Tony and Shaun talk about it, right, is the back end producing products that people really want and want to buy. And that's everyone's challenge. And I think what Triumvirate was very lucky to do and partner with a few of our clients, especially one in regards to developing an ISO certified recycled pallet that we can sell back to our clients. So they ship us 1 million pounds of plastic, and we can ship back 1 million pounds of a recycled product that they're typically buying right now, but it's not recycled material. So those are the things that commitment 5 years out should be on both sides of it, both from the producers of the plastic and the people that are making products, right? That they communicate more and more so everyone's successful in this endeavor, because that's the key. And I think, without that, it's going to be a strong battle for many people in the recycling business.
Thanks, Tom. And Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Shaun and listening to Thomas, and I'm nodding my head, and all of that is so true. And I think we're in the same boat. So I'll take a little bit of a different slant. If we challenge ourselves and project 5 years into the future, we would have passed all the 2025 goals that so many corporations have made. So I'm gonna wish that by 2025 we made kind of true and did well by a lot of those goals. And I think if we are able to really make waste and recycling a priority, hopefully we can achieve those goals. Looking beyond 2025, I hope we start to look at packaging in products not as waste but as a commodity. That would be my goal. And even with us at TerraCycle, we're building a unique arm of our business, which is a diagnostic business, where we want people not to think of a dirty diaper, as garbage, as something that I got to get away from me as soon as possible. What's in that dirty diaper is two important things. There's polypropylene, there's cellulosic material. Those are valuable commodities. We have spent a lot of resource, both financially and environmentally, to extract those materials from the earth, to refine them, to turn them into a finished good. So once we've done that, once we've created that new resource, let's keep that circle as tight as possible and use it again and again. But I hinted at diagnostics. That diaper also contains material that could be valuable to somebody, right? Who knows what's coming back on your toothbrush? And not only can we collect and recycle that toothbrush, but can we provide the consumer with a report on the health of their mouth? Do they have early onset gingivitis? And again, it's about a mentality shift. How do we stop looking at things as garbage, but as valuable? And I think if we start to do that, we can really bring about some serious change.
AI, big data, and trash. That's an exciting thing about where we could all go. What are the largest challenges that you're facing? And Tom, over to you.
Sure. I mean, some of the largest challenges we face, number one is change, right? So when we go to a different site that, wants to collect more and more plastics and find out different ways, what other materials they could recycle. It's that change factor, right? It's different. We have to do things different. And most people are reluctant for change. So just trying to get people to buy into the concept that, hey, if we change a little bit here and a little bit there, we can recycle a lot more material, right? So that's usually the number one issue, along with education, educating the people what can and can't be recycled. And I think what Tony and Shaun are saying, we should all be thinking outside the box to make sure we can recycle everything. And that, to me, that education piece and the change piece is extremely important. And I think, driving down cost, right? And I'm sure, Tony and Shaun will concur with this, but we see our biggest challenge from a cost perspective is logistics, getting the recycled plastic from point A to our plant or any other recycler. 70% of the cost is literally logistics, the transportation. So what can we do to help the clients cut down on that cost? And we've been very creative over the last few years to come up with different options. And part of it is maybe putting people on the ground, trying for people to help them collect and move different plastics around at the site to help do that. Second thing is different types of balers that we have, used and tried and what have you, so that are small in size, not like these large industrial balers, but small in size. So it doesn't take up too much space, because space is mission critical, but also it's very cost effective. They're not really expensive. So, and that will cut down on logistic costs between 30 and 50%. Some of our clients generate so much plastic, they actually put, through some of the advice or ours or another consultant company, they put in a shredder, right? All the plastics we receive in our plant, we have to shred a few different times, right? And they're doing that on the front end, so they can maximize that transportation piece to cut down on cost. And that will cut down cost almost 70 or 80% on the logistics side. So there's creative things like that we need to do, and challenges that we have to partner with our clients so they have the incentive to recycle more and more.
Thanks, Tom. And Tony, what are your thoughts, biggest challenges?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. The biggest challenge is always expense, right? Recycling things that are not valuable is expensive, right? And it's an expense that is not accounted for, right? Very rarely do I work with companies and they've set aside budgets for recycling things that are not being municipally recycled today, and working with large stakeholders to show them and that this expense needs to be covered in order to hit some of the goals that they've made is a challenge for sure. And if we look at what we've done as a society, as an economy over the last 50 years, we've invested so much money in maximizing our profit in our supply chain to make it so efficient, to use less and cheaper material because we pick up profit and margin. And now sometimes when we introduce the recyclability components to an equation that has been so refined over the last 50 years, it's not easy, and it's a system change, and it takes a lot of brain power and resources to include these types of programs into their business model moving forward. What's amazing, and I've seen this in my 10 years here at TerraCycle, in my first 5 years, getting a meeting with a company was reason for success, right? But today, everybody knows that they need to change. And conversations are happening every day in a lot of different industries. So it's wonderful that we've gotten to a point of adoption. Now we're in an area where we need to implement that change. So expense is always a big one. That's the biggest challenge. And then very quickly, I would also say that recycling is not universal. I've worked with waste management companies and offices in Manhattan where literally if you're on the east or west side of the street, something like polypropylene may be recyclable on the east side, but there's different waste management companies servicing the buildings on the west side, and they're not recycling polypropylene. So recycling as an industry is super fragmented. So I think that bringing a more harmonized and unified approach to recycling will help recycle better, to one of my points earlier.
And that's a good segue for this team, right, that's participating today. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this forum, is to have the ability for many organizations to work together collectively in order to help address this together and bring some scale. So Shaun, over to you. Biggest challenges from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the entrepreneur side of me, the challenges are almost the fun part. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And the challenge is that we really look at and thrive in is, how can we attract people to our team that really just love to solve these challenges, that we can just specialize in the challenging. I mean, for us, quite often, we go into these ecosystems and, our user of our application is often a first-time phone user, a low literate user. And, how might we not exclude the most vulnerable just because it's challenging? And this is the big thing. We really focus on a company of how might we put the most vulnerable first, and really just look at all the challenges of realities we need to phase into, not be blind to those realities, but just plan to make sure, again, that we can thrive in the challenging environments, which then you also find there's so many companies, so many partners. We're all looking at how do we solve these challenges together? How do we bring, ethical traceability into recycling in the most vulnerable parts of the world? How do we scale to the size that everyone needs for it to be an authentic impact? And again, I go to the point that, to me, the challenge is what makes it worthwhile.
Exciting. It's good. It's a good challenge for us all to coalesce around together. So let's take a quick break here to learn more about Triumvirate Environmental. Welcome back to our live discussion on partnering for plastic waste solutions. So for our panelists, how can your industry partners, such as ourselves, Cytiva and those on the phone, better support you in each of you achieving your missions? Shaun, let's go to you first.
Yeah, we have a lot of different ways that we partner with, our great partners, of whether you're using plastic, whether you're looking to just make a traceable, trackable impact in knowing that your organization is giving back in the way you operate. So for us, we really kind of look at what is that unique fit that, is really authentically aligned with our partner's mission, with our mission. And again, whether it's using plastic, whether it's offsetting a plastic footprint, really making an impact in some of these vulnerable worlds to just unlock, opportunities, life improvement. We really look at, there's so many ways that different people can all play a unique part. Even everyone on this call is really looking at a different way of, how might my business be a part of that solution? And we really just look, again, whether it's through partnership, whether it's, through many ways, it's how might we be a conduit to better fulfill your mission as a partner.
Thanks, Shaun. Tony, what are your thoughts?
I would say we've just started our relationship with Cytiva, and it is a journey, like I said earlier. The hardest thing sometimes to do is to start. Now it's how do we grow? And I think what's unique about TerraCycle is TerraCycle work with our partners to create a supply chain to get back products and packages. And when you look in the life science space, sometimes the actual recycling of the product or package is not the biggest challenge, but it's the shipping. And I think working with the team to identify what products and packages can safely be stored and then shipped back to TerraCycle is something I'm looking forward to digging into deeper, because there is a lot of misconception around the life science industry, and some people think that everything is red bag waste and must be incinerated legally, but in actuality it's not, and we can provide solutions. So working with your teams and ultimately with your stakeholders and users to really identify what can we recover, how do we safely store it at our location, and how do we safely create a supply chain to send it back to be recycled, is something that I personally am really looking forward to digging into deeper.
Great, thank you. And Tom?
Yeah, I think the life science industry, and especially with Cytiva and other leaders like yourself, have done a great job. And if I had to choose one thing, stay that committed and stay focused on helping us come up with different products that we can get back into the industry, so that full circular economy is working. To me, that's the most important thing. If we don't have that, none of this can survive. And I think you've heard that from all three panelists today, right? We need to come up with creative ways. And the best way to do that is work together, communicate, meet, brainstorm. All those things are extremely important. And I think when you think about different products you're going to use, what are you going to reuse over and over and over again? Because one thing unique about our process, and you saw the quick video, but the different types of material we can make, they're big, and most of it's landscape timbers and other type products, but it's big and it's bulky, but it lasts for a very, very long time. So getting that consistent repeat business is very important for us. And I think for the life science industry, right? Because especially if the SUT business is going to keep growing at 25%, there's millions and millions of pounds every single day just here in the States that need to be recycled. So we need to challenge ourselves. What can we do to partner together to make it successful for the long term?
That's huge. Love that theme of partnership. And with the single use growing the way that it is, it becomes more important for us to be able to address this as an industry. So thank you for that. Follow-on question to each of the panelists. So what have you've all had a partnership now with Cytiva for some time. What have you learned during the course of this partnership, and how can other life sciences organizations, many of whom are in this conversation today, how can they adopt similar programs and help in reaching their environmental impact goals? So let's start back with you, Tony.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. I think we're starting with syringe filters. Like that's the supply chain that we've created with Cytiva. I'm looking forward to what's next, because in the life science space, there, like I mentioned, it is complicated. There is safety is first and foremost. We can't sacrifice safety for the sake of recycling. So I'm really looking forward to working with you to identify what are the materials that we can safely remove from locations and send back to TerraCycle to recycle. And it's not easy. It's challenging. And for us as TerraCycle, we're specialists in recycling a lot of complex stuff, a lot of the stuff that Pierre just mentioned in the chat. But what's amazing about the team at Cytiva is you guys know your business. You know what goes into your products, you know how they're used, and it's been a real pleasure working with your team to bring that expertise to the table so that we can collaborate together to recover more. I think that's the best part of our partnership, and where it's going is it's always in the spirit of how do we do more. And I think we've started small, and now it's time to grow.
Great, thanks, Pierre. Let's pause here and rather take a question here that came in from Pierre. So he's mentioning single-use technologies developed for pharma, biopharma industries involve silicone, right? Stainless steel, thermoplastic elastomers, a whole plethora of different materials. So what are the different technologies available today to recycle properly all of these materials, including biohazard waste? And I know Tom talked a little bit more about shredders and things that he uses. So Tom, you've got a lot of experience dealing with some nasty items. Let's tee this one over to you, please.
Okay. Yeah. And I think, again, we can take that material in Jeanette, Pennsylvania and process it, decontaminate it so it's now a solid waste, and then recycle it into plant two. The difficulty part, and this is a great example of a partnership with like Cytiva, and our partnership's fairly recent as well, with Tony. They immediately reached out and not only, provided, what their challenges are, but also, looked at us and said, what are the problems with the SUT bags that we're making, right? And the first thing I brought up was the silicone, right? Silicone is very difficult to recycle. So, what are the products down the road when you're redesigning the next level of SUT bag that you can use that's not silicone, right? So those are the things that they're doing to reach out. For us on our side, any of the metal that we get, because we have to sort through the SUT bags, we recycle all the metal. The magnet, same thing. The only thing that's really not recyclable right now is the silicone. We're having very difficult options for the silicone. And we do get, it's not a lot when you really look at the SUT bag overall, but as you know, some of them can have 30 clips, 30 tubes, some of them can have 5 tubes. So it is a challenge for us, but right now we do recycle probably 95% of the SUT bags that we bring in. The only thing that right now is not is obviously the silicone. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, and to Pierre for asking. And once again, encourage everyone to get connected on your individual cases to the panelists here so that we can carry this forward. We want this to be more than just a conversation. We want to carry this forward as a journey to continue to make some solutions together. And with that, Shaun, let's go to you. How can other organizations get involved?
Yeah, and then I think there's a great example that you guys have said as well, and that there really is no silver bullet, one way to just solve every problem. It's really looking in this, bringing it back to this Kaizen incremental approach of, what could we do to get a little bit better today? What could we try? What is the different ways that we could really just see how to create this long-term impact, but also knowing, there's rarely guarantees in life. Some initiatives are risks, but making sure that it's a safe place to try things, double, triple down on what's working, but really just look at this complete picture of what are all the complementary initiatives that you could do. And again, we look from any of our partners of how might we be that conduit to really help fulfill that complementary initiative that's really values aligned for you.
Thanks, Shaun. Well, let's take a moment here and pause and learn about Cytiva's Zero Waste program with TerraCycle. Welcome back to our live discussion on partnering for plastic waste solutions. So for our panelists here, what advice do you have for our industry peers, for our customers, on ways that they can better direct and implement creative methods for reducing or minimizing the environmental impact of their operations? Tony, what's your thought?
So for me, one of the things that I always like to kind of challenge people with as they make decisions on what they buy, because Shaun alluded to this earlier, we have a lot of power, right? Whenever we buy something, we're voting for that product. And for me, as people are thinking about waste management, as they're thinking about making choices on procuring new products, I always like to challenge people and say, not is this technically recyclable, but would somebody want to recycle it? Our CEO often gives the egregiously exaggerated example of, if everybody made their products and packaging from gold, we'd have no waste problem, because at the end of the day, everybody would want that material, right? So as you're thinking about kind of procuring products, think about, would somebody want this at the end of the day? And going through that exercise, I've seen have very positive and powerful consequences in terms of collecting and recycling more material. So that's something that I always like to leave people with and have them thinking about, is not, is it technically recyclable, but would somebody want to recycle this?
We've got a good suggestion here, just to layer in, because cost was such a concern. Nick shares, what about including a recycling cost into products at the front end and passing those on to our recyclers? We're charged a deposit on drink containers, a tire recycling charge. So what about that? Panelists, have you had any thought? I think TerraCycle, you've worked quite a bit in the consumer product space for many years. Any insight you'd like to lend to that suggestion?
I think EPR is becoming, so extended producer responsibility is gaining more and more and more and more traction, right? And that is, again, to help subsidize the cost of recycling, to entice recyclers to want to collect and recycle material, right? So if we are creating that subsidy, that's hopefully going to enable more material being recycled. So I like that from a policy perspective. But TerraCycle, like I said, has been working with some of our partners for over a decade. And in running their recycling programs with TerraCycle over a decade, they're seeing how much is coming back of what they produce. And a lot of our partners have included that that recycling cog into the pricing process of how they price and create the price of their product. So we're seeing it, but it's not always easy. And I kind of go back to my point earlier. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to start. It's hard to create that cog without having run that program to begin with, right? So it's something that starts small, and I think as you have data, as you run these programs for periods of time, you can really start to make educated decisions around how you include those recycling prices into the price of your product.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. We'll continue to have those conversations with our customers as well. Shaun, your thoughts on ways to get engaged?
Yeah, I mean, we almost approach this from a kind of a unique angle. Like growing up in Vancouver, Canada, we've always had a return system. So the concept of, plastic has value. It goes here, you get value. This is something we grew up in. And, I was really shocked to see that this doesn't exist in most places around the world. It's actually a very rare thing to, be done right and organized. And in many ways, taking that as a bit of an inspiration for our own model, we almost provide ways that when we have our products on the shelf, the incentive is actually going to clean the world of everyone's waste through the impact made on this product, where instead of just single selecting this product, returns its own volume. A lot of what we do enlivens how might this product return more than what it costs to make, which is what we do through impact programs, what we do through our social plastic. And in many ways, you can think of it, it's more of a voluntary program of investing in, the impact of this product to really make sure it's being done in a responsible way.
Great. Thank you so much, Shaun. And no, you've already, Tom, given us some really good insights, particularly for single-use organizations, on how to get engaged with you. And it's really just reach out. The solution's there. So please do reach out to any of our panelists. And with that, just want to thank you once again. Thank you to Shaun, to Tom, to Tony for your time today, for your openness and conversation, and to everyone who joined on the call. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Please reach out to any one of us, and we'll be more than happy to get connected with you. Have a great day.
in 2000.